Hey, what's going on? My name is Alexandru, and today we're gonna take a look at some pretty crazy lenses. More exactly, we're gonna take a look at the SLR Magic MicroPrime Cine, which is pretty crazy because those lenses claim to have a T1.2 or 1.3 depending on the lens you're choosing. So I thought those lenses are pretty crazy because at T1.2 or 1.3, those lenses should have a crazy bokeh or should be like very shallow depth of field. And the crazy thing with those lenses is that they are for full frame. So to test those lenses out, I rented out a Sony a7R IV and I put them on and I did a test where I put every lens in front of a subject and I tested the sharpness, the bokeh, the focus breathing, how it flares, how it focuses and all that. So we're gonna deep dive into how they look and how I think those lenses perform. But until that, I just want to point out a few things about those lenses, things that are not image quality related. First thing first, I think those lenses are built like a tank. So their structure is from aluminum and the lenses look very sturdy. They look very solid. Unfortunately, they are only made for E-mount lenses and because of that, you can only put them on Sony cameras, but quality and build wise, I have nothing to complain. I think they are amazing. The structure and how they feel is great. The focus gear and all that are perfectly in line between lenses, so you don't have to worry about moving your focus gear when switching lenses. Heavy wise, I think they are pretty similar, so this is a bonus factor. And what I think it's really incredible is the price, because the price is around $529 on Amazon. And if you're from Romania, you can buy those from West Buy also. The thing is, I got those lenses from Naked Pixel, which is a rental company from Oradea. And those guys have a lot of gear. They have phantom flags, they have reds, they have a lot of lenses, anamorphic lenses and all that. So if you're from Romania and you want to rent, you can go to Naked Pixel because they are a great company and the people there are amazing. Now let's go and see how those lenses perform. I'm gonna do a screen recording and we're gonna start with an 80mm lens. And first thing first, the first shot. As you can see, the lens is so wide that we can see the paddle light up there lighting our subject, and it has pretty interesting flares. The flaring has a little bit of curvature. A more powerful light would have been much better, but as you can see, it does some sort of a circle thing. The flares are pretty nice. I'm not a really big fan of the rainbow effect that we see right here. It might be because of the light. So if you're new to Resolve and you're watching this, I'm also gonna give you a few tips when we are looking for the footage. And the main tip is, like, when you want to copy a color grade between takes and you don't know how to do it, I just grab a still and then apply it to the next one. So grab a still and apply grade. Very simple. So here I'm gonna look at how much the lens breathes. So whenever we look at lenses and what lens breathing is when you focus, if the lens zooms in or zooms out, that is the lens breathing. And usually with high quality lenses or more expensive lenses, the breathing effect is really minimal. Unfortunately, for those lenses, the focus breathing is really bad. So if we look at this shot, check how much it zooms in and zooms out. It's crazy. It's like you are having a zoom lenses when you're focusing, which I don't really like. And I'm not sure if I like this thing about those lenses, but bear with me because it gets better and the other lenses are better. But as you can see, if you look close at the table right here, you can see how much focus breathing it has, and it's pretty horrible. I never seen so much focus breathing on a wide lens, honestly. Usually wide lenses don't have that much focus breathing, but this one has. I don't know why. So Okay, focus breathing is not good. We're gonna look a little bit at bokeh. So the bokeh is really sharp. So I'm gonna get to that when we get to like longer focal lenses, because we can see the bokeh better there. We're gonna check the minimal focus distance. And for this lens, the minimal focus distance is pretty good. You can see that it's not that bad. You can get objects pretty close to the lens and they look good. Again, we see that focus breathing a lot, but yeah, so far I think it looks pretty good. Here I think the subject is in focus. No, wait. Yeah, it's in focus. I think this lens is pretty soft. And I think I didn't fuck up the focus here in the first place, but yeah, I think the lens is pretty soft. This one, it's a no for me, and we're gonna go to the next one, being the, let's see, 25mm T1.5. So this lens starts to get better because firstly, it has a T1.5, and secondly, because it's a 25, and I love wide lenses on full frame cameras, and usually wide lenses that have a high t-stop. So we're gonna apply the look on this one, and as you can see, it's such a big difference. The image on this lens is absolutely beautiful. This lens, so far, it gets me attracted to it, and I want to see more because I like how it looks. And as you can see, the LUT applies very beautiful. The subject looks absolutely amazing. Her skin and everything looks pretty sharp. The bokeh in the background looks pretty good. Yeah, I really like how this lens looks. It's cinematic, it's sharp, it's perfect. So far, it's perfect. Let's see how it looks when we put a little bit of light in front of it and how it flares. So if we look at the flares are not that high. They were a little bit higher on the wide lens, and on this lens the flares look pretty good. There's nothing that bothers me except for the obvious 8-bit codec that gets destroyed when light hits the Madalina's hair, but we're not gonna look at codec right now, we're looking at the lens. Here I took the light and put it against the lens and see how the lens reacts to that kind of light. And I really like how it looks. The flares are pretty good, not that bad. Nothing that really makes me not want to buy this lens. We're gonna go to minimal focus distance, which is very important because you want to have lenses that have a good minimal focus distance, because you don't want to really use diopters or filter reductions and all that to get close-up shots. You want lenses that you can work really fast with them and not worry about getting in the way. So since this lens set is so small and so practical, it needs to have a minimal focus distance so you can work really fast with it without having to use diopters. So at a 25mm, the minimal focus distance is in feet, and it's 1.3 feet. And since I'm from Europe, I don't know exactly how much is that. 1.3 feet in meters is 39 centimeters. So that is pretty close up, I guess, which is not bad. Also, I want to say that all the shots that you see are shot at the maximum t-stop, meaning T1.3 or T1.2, depending on the lens. Because usually when I look at those lenses, I want to shoot at T1.2 or T1.3 because that's why I buy those lenses. Minimal focus looks okay, and now we're gonna look at focus breathing. And focus breathing is again apparent here. It's not that bad as the 18mm, but it's there. If you look at this table, you can see that the focus breathing is big. Like it zooms in a little, it zooms out pretty bad actually. So yeah, focus breathing, horrible again. But it depends, like it's a $500 lens, so yeah. Okay, we're gonna look a little bit at bokeh. And one thing that I don't really like about those lenses bokeh is that it's not soft. Whenever you want image separation, and if you look at this image and you think this image has separation, well, it has, but if the bokeh is softer, then you're gonna have a much better looking image and cinematic. So that's why so many cinema lenses that cost thousands of dollars are so expensive, because they try to make the lens in a way that no other competitors can. And if you look at Cook Optics or Ori lenses and all that, they spend a lot of money trying to make this bokeh in the background soft, so you have a much better looking image. And on these lenses, unfortunately, the bokeh is pretty sharp, so it's not bad. You can live with it. A lot of people will not even realize this, but yeah, doesn't matter. We're gonna go to the 35mm T1.3. So we're getting higher with this T-stop, which is great. So it means that we're gonna have interesting results right now. So first shot, we're looking at how it looks. I think it's pretty sharp. The image looks absolutely amazing. I love how colors look and all that, so I don't have nothing to say about it. If you want to see how it looks without color, this is how it looks. This is with the colors, this is without. And moving at the flare test, as you can see, the flare looks pretty good. It's very similar to the 25mm lens, and I like that the lenses are consistent. And yeah, it looks pretty good. Nothing to complain about. We're gonna go to the close-up flare test, and we're gonna see how the lens bleeds. And I like how it looks. It's pretty similar to the 25. I like how it fills up the image and all that. Those lenses have a character when it comes to flares. Okay, we're gonna go to the focus breeding test and see how it looks. Okay, I think that this lens breeds a little bit less than the 25, but it's still big. If we look at this table, you can see how much it zooms in and how much it zooms out. So yeah, the lens breeding on those lenses is pretty bad, but it's not something that doesn't allow you to create stunning images. I'm just looking at characteristics that make a lens professional or not. But if the lens breeds, it could be like a creative touch that you want to add to the filming or to what project you're doing. So there might be some DPs that don't really care about lens breeding, but there might be some people that care about lens breeding. We're looking again at the bokeh, and I think the bokeh looks good still. I like how it blends in, but if the bokeh was softer, when you have looked at this section, you would have seen all the highlights getting emerged together, and that would have created more softness, because right now this is a little bit disturbing. So yeah. All right, so moving forward. Okay, so the minimal focus distance on this lens is the same 1.3 like the other one, which is pretty good. It's pretty close to the subject. It looks pretty good, and I can see a little bit of color aberration here, which is pretty acceptable. It's not that bad. I don't think it's that bad. So yeah, we're gonna go to the next, and the next one is the 50mm, and this one is my favorite because it has an aperture of T1.2 and is the craziest one from the set, and I think it's the best one from the set, and this is the lens that I will 100% recommend, and this is the lens that I would buy. This and the 25 I think are the best from the set. And on this one, what it's really nice is that it's a 50mm lens, so you're gonna see that nice bokeh and flares and all that. So we're looking out at the image and we can see that Madalina's looking very good with this. The image is pretty sharp, it's not that bad. And even though we shot this at T1.2, I was expecting it to be very soft. And as we look, it's quite a good image. And it's pretty interesting because it looks good. Like it's very nice. I don't have nothing to complain about. And now let's check out the flares. If we look at the flares, this lens is like the flariest one. So you can see that round shaped flare that goes along, which is pretty characteristic for those lenses, and I think it looks pretty good. It has a creative feel about it. I don't know, you can say that. And we're gonna look at how it flares when we put the lights to the side. And I think on this lens, the flares look the best. We're gonna look now at how the lens breathes. And as we focus in and out, we can see the lens zooms a little bit. I don't think it's that bad as the other lenses that we test. That's why I think the 50 is the best lens from this set, the 50 and the 25, because it's a pretty good combo. The bokeh looks okay. It's not as sharp as on the other lenses, and that's one thing that I like. The bokeh is much better. It's still sharp, but it looks, in my opinion, a little bit better than the other lenses. The minimal focus distance is acceptable, but when your minimal focus distance at T1.2, you can see a little bit color aberration. It's not necessarily color aberration, it's some sort of softness, which I don't really understand. And it looks interesting. It kind of gives you like that vintage vibe and all that. So I think this lens is nice if you want to obtain that vintage look, because it's not perfect. So yeah, again, if we move a little bit closer to the subject, we can see that the lens is very sharp. So minimal focus distance is 2 feet. 2 feet 8 meters is 0.6, so it's half a meter. It's pretty acceptable. It would have been cool to be lower, but usually for a 50 millimeter, half a meter is kind of their minimal focus distance. So yeah, in this case, it's acceptable. So we're gonna go to the 75. And the 75 is a T1.5. We applied the LUT, it looks very good. Actually, this lens is, I think, the sharpest from the whole set. I know I said the 50 and the 25 are my favorites. I don't usually like to shoot with such long lenses, so that's why those focal length are much better for me. But this lens looks also very good. It has a lot of sharpness. It has nice characteristics. If we look at the skin and all that, it's not really that harsh on the skin, so I like how it looks. The bokeh is also very beautiful. We're gonna take a look at the flares. The flares on this lens are not as are big, like they are filling up the whole screen and all that, but they don't have the same characteristics as the 50. The 50 has those vintage flares going on, but I like how it looks. It looks pretty good. It's not that bad. We're gonna go to lens breathing, and if you look at the TV, it has a lot of breathing, but if we compare this lens to the others, the lens breathing is not as big as some lenses in the set. I think the least focused breathing is the 50 millimeter, and this one is a little bit after it. So, but yeah, if we look at the bokeh looks pretty good. Not that bad. The minimal focus distance on this lens is 3 feet, just a little bit under 3 feet, which I think is 1 meter. It's pretty manageable. I don't think I want more than that. And for a lens like this, pretty much this is the minimal focus distance you get on other companies and other brands. So the image quality out of those lenses regarding their price point is very good. Of course, they are not perfect. They have a little bit of flaws and all that, but you can only see those flaws when you look really close to them. And if you're not looking at flaws and you're just enjoying filming with them, enjoy the high t-stop and all that, then you're gonna have a lot of fun with those lenses, honestly. And you're not gonna even notice those things that I mentioned, because I was, again, very critical when looking at those things. And I think it's amazing to have lenses that have such high t-stops, because you can get very creative when you're shooting in low light and all. You can have interesting bokeh going on in the background and interesting flares. And I also shot some pictures, which I'm gonna show you, and you can see how beautiful the flare is. You have interesting characteristics out of this lens, and I think they are pretty special. Even though they are not perfect, and I might not use them on like higher end commercial where everything needs to be like super perfect and all, but I think those lenses are very good for people that just start filming and want to get into cinematic world and use follow focus and all those gears that tend to make your work better and faster. So in my opinion, I think if you ask me if I would recommend those lenses, I would definitely say yes. For the price point and the quality they have, I think those lenses are a win. The only lens I wouldn't buy is the 18mm, which I don't like. I think it's not a fun lens, and at T2.8 I think you can find better options. But rather than that, the 50, the 25, the 35 and 75 are really good. And if you only want to buy two lenses, I would go with the 25 and the 50, because those ones I think are the most fun. So I hope this review was helpful when it comes to like seeing the quality of those lenses and what they can do. And if you want to know more, just type me a comment and I would love to answer it. And you can also follow me on Instagram and put some questions there. I will be very open to answer any questions you have. And I just want to mention out that I'm not an expert at lenses and all, and I'm just like you do, learning a lot. And I just, maybe I see things different because I have a few years of experience. But other than that, I think if you want to learn more about lenses and why expensive lenses cost that much, I will link down a video in the description where one of my favorite YouTubers, Potato Jet, talks with an ARRI lenses engineer, and they talk for like 30 minutes about lenses. And that video has opened my mind on how you can judge a lens based on its quality. So I really recommend you going and watch that video, because it's a very good learning experience, and you will thank me for that later. So hope you enjoyed the video, and hope you can make a good decision when buying new lenses. For me, those lenses were really fun to shoot with, and I really was impressed with the quality out of those things. I was never expecting it to be that sharp at T1.2 and usable at T1.2, but they are. And imagine putting those lenses on the Sony FX9. I think it will be such a win situation. Thanks a lot for hanging out. Please don't forget to like and subscribe on this video, and peace.